Welcome everyone back to another episode of the Fifth Quarter Podcast. I am your host, Devin, as always joined by my co-host, Jaden, as we are going to be talking about every single NFL team in this video, grading pretty much their offseason so far, what they've done in free agency, some trades that went down. So if you guys are new to the channel, make sure to leave a like, make sure to subscribe. Check us out on Spotify. Make sure to rate us 5 stars over there. We're not going to be doing a ton of other things in this video, considering that it's going to be extremely long. It's probably going to be our longest episode ever, talking about every team. So no really other segments to go over in this video. But as always, you guys know how we start these videos. We're going to get into some pregame talk. What do we got today?
All right, so today, staying somewhat topical with what's going on in the sports world or what has happened, I want you to rank the likelihood of these next single game records to be broken. I got 10.
Obviously.
Yeah, I got 10 different ones.
Okay.
I don't know how you want to rank it from 10 to 1 being the most likely, 10 being the hardest. I think that makes the most sense.
Okay, so I'm not ranking
It's
these individually.
It's not a blind ranking. No. You are going to be ranking them individually from one.
Oh, I
you are going to. They are going to be being ranked, yeah. But it's not going to be like a blind ranking. You could change it from wherever, but just from 1 to 10, I'd say 1 being the most likely to happen next, and then 10 being the least likely.
Okay, so I can flip-flop around if I want to.
Yeah.
Like I can switch them out.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's do it.
All right, before we start, I'll name them. We got passing yards, passing touchdowns, receiving yards, receiving touchdowns. Same with rushing. And then I got sacks, DB, and quarterback interceptions. And then field goals made. I was going to do field goal, but like that shit gets broken like every year. So, So I just did field goals made.
Okay.
So we'll start with the passing yards and touchdowns. Where do you think that would fall? Passing yards record held by Norm Van Brocklin, 554 yards. And then a bunch of other quarterbacks have thrown for 7 touchdowns, but that is the record.
Yeah. Okay. And these are separate, right? They're not like one, you're not combining these together.
Separate, yeah. Where do you think they fall? 1 through 10.
Oh man. Honestly, I would probably say the yards is a little bit easier than the touchdowns. I'm trying to think about, like, obviously the other records that are going to be on here. And I can obviously switch them out if I like to. I'm going to start it out with passing yards. So you said 1 is the easiest, right? 10 is the hardest?
Yeah.
Okay, so, or not hardest, but most likely to least likely. I'll go passing yards at like maybe at like 4 and passing touchdowns at like 6. I'll probably end up moving those, but that's what my gut's telling me right now. So I'm going to stick them there.
All right. I just want to say, too, the passing yards one, like it does seem like, man, 554, that doesn't seem like a lot. But I think it might be like one of the longest active records on this list.
Yeah, that's the thing. It doesn't, because in my mind we've had 500-yard passers, and I'm like, is there a world where it's like we could see a game like going to? I mean, even if it goes into OT, it's not that much extra yards, but who knows? Maybe they get the ball at like the 8-yard line, and some quarterback puts together like a 72 passing yard drive, and they get a touchdown in overtime. That's kind of where my mindset is. And the 7 passing touchdown, I feel like it's very likely to see them tie it, but man, to get 8 is so difficult.
Like I said, a bunch of quarterbacks have gotten 7.
Yeah.
We could do the receiving yards and touchdowns.
Receiving yards and receiving touchdowns. So what?
336
yards is like
by Flipper Anderson.
Is Calvin 327? Is that why that number just came to me? That sounds right. Calvin was something.
Probably,
but
something like that.
Okay. So you said 336 for receiving yards.
And 5 touchdowns for receiving. A couple players have hit the 5 mark.
Yeah. Damn. I might flip on this, funny enough. I might rank receiving touchdowns above receiving yards. That might be crazy, but I think I'm going to do that. I think what I have it at 4-6. So I'll go, man, this is kind of tough considering that, like, I'm going to go receiving touchdowns at 5 and receiving yards at 7, just so I don't mix anything up right now, but I'm probably going to, but I'll just leave them there for now.
All right. And then we'll hit the last offensive. We'll do the rushing. And that is
rushing yards and touchdowns.
I believe it's 298 or 96 by AP. And then 6 touchdowns by Alvin Kamara.
Okay. I'm gonna these rushing ones are gonna be a little bit higher probably. I think I'm gonna go rushing yards maybe at 2. That might end up being my 1 when this is all said and done. And then I'm gonna go rushing touchdowns. I guess I gotta put that one at 3. I feel like the rushing is a lot more doable though than any of the other offensive ones. So yeah, I'll go 2 and 3 for those. 2 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns.
All right, and then we got sacks. 7 by Derek Thomas.
Sheesh. Yeah, this one is tough, but I think out of the other ones, it might be, somewhat doable, I guess. But again, all these records sound unreal, but when you put into perspective, I didn't think I'd see someone put up over 81 in my life, and we did. I guess I'm gonna just default put it at 1. So I got
You think the sacks at 1?
I mean, that's all I really got left. I mean, I got like the lower ones, but I don't think we see the interception one is what, 4 in a game? And then interceptions thrown in a single game is also like super high. I think those two, like going into it, those two I already pre-planned to probably be my 9 and 10 if that's all I have open. So I think default, I have to go. I'm going to switch it around once I hear my rankings a little bit, but for now I'll just leave sacks at 1.
All right, then, yeah. DB, quarterbacks.
The last 2 are the interception ones?
No, there's 3. There's also the field goals made, too.
Oh, okay. Oh, field goals made might be a little higher for me then. What is the quarterback one?
8.
Quarterback interception? 8. Yeah, see, that's probably 10 for me. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
because in today's NFL, you're getting like, especially if it's like a younger quarterback or even like a quarterback that's kind of on that bridge. Like I'm sure, right? Mahomes, Allen, these guys have a rough game with 3 or 4. They're obviously going to stay in the game, but also, what are the odds that it's even a close game if they're playing that poor?
Yeah.
So I really think that's 10. I think that is the most unbreakable record on this. And then interceptions in a game, that's 4.
Yeah, a bunch of players have had 4.
Who was the It wasn't.
D'Angelo Hall did it. I know.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
There's a bunch of other players that have done it though.
4 doesn't seem that crazy, but at the same time it is, because when was the last time we seen a quarterback throw 5 interceptions in a game?
5.
And it's like for a single player would have to do that to a quarterback. So it's like that one also feels really tough. I guess I'll put that one at.
Or they put the backup in, and the backup is still throwing them.
Yeah. True. I'll just put that one at 9 for now, and then field goals will automatically have to go at 8, which is what, like 5 in a game or 6? 8. Wow, 8. I did not know it was that much. We just saw someone break. Was it the playoff record?
Yeah.
Is that what we saw?
Jason Myers.
Yeah, he had 5, right? And the previous record was 4.
I thought.
No way.
I thought he had 7.
Because they scored 2 touchdowns, and 7 would be 21. They didn't score like 36 in the Super Bowl. I think he had 5, and then they had 2 touchdowns.
7. Oh, I probably included extra points.
Maybe. Okay, so I'm pretty good about my 10 and 9. Read me my list that I had. What did it end
You
up
got sacks
shaping
at
up like?
1, rush yards at 2, rush TDs at 3, pass yards at 4, receiving touchdowns at 5, pass TDs at 6, receiving yards at 7, and field goals at 8.
Okay. So I think I'm going to lock 10 and 9 as the interceptions, 10 as the quarterback interceptions, 9 as the DB interceptions. I think I'm going to put passing yards at 2, rushing yards at 1. What is my 3? Rushing touchdowns?
Yeah.
I think I'll leave that. I'll put sacks at 4. And then what is my 5 through 7?
Receiving touchdowns at 5, pass touchdowns at 6, and receiving yards at 7.
I think I'm gonna go passing touchdown. I'm gonna swap passing touchdowns and receiving yards. I had passing touchdowns at 6, receiving yards at 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna flip those, I think. So then my list would be rushing yards at 1, passing yards at 2. What did I say?
Rushing touchdowns.
Rushing touchdowns at 3, sacks at 4.
Receiving touchdowns at 5.
Yep. And then
receiving yards at 6, passing touchdowns at 7, field goals at 8, DB interceptions at 9, and quarterback interceptions at 10.
I think that's pretty solid. I actually think I like that. I don't know if there's any if looking at my potential list or my list, is there anything you're like way off on? I mean, you reacted pretty heavily to me putting sacks at 1.
It's just like
that's
Derek Thomas, he held that record.
Yeah.
He's held that record for like 30 years. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like 7 sacks,
yeah.
Like
I mean, to be fair, there is like when I'm looking at all these records, there's like the only realistic ones I could see getting broken in the next decade or something like that are like rushing yards and passing yards. Like it's like even like the touchdowns, like I don't really feel confident that we're going to see someone rush for 7. Because again, it's like with these numbers, they would probably be in a blowout and they would pull them, and it's like
and when they got those numbers though, it was like create like specific situations, like all of Kamara's, they were like all at the goal line, and it was a close game.
Right. You would
And
need
then,
like
sacks,
everything to go well.
I don't know, because like teams can just. I mean, we seen teams do it. I mean, we also seen Myles Garrett last year get like fucking like 5 or 6 sacks in a game.
I think he had 6.
But then we also seen other games where like they completely just game planned around it, and like the fucking Steelers, like he finished with like 0 sacks a couple games, and it's like teams can, if they really want to avoid getting sacked, I think they could.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. It's got to be just a special situation for that somebody to hit 8 or even tie that 7.
Yeah, and I mean that really is what records are. I mean, even staying on topic with someone like Bam that just did that again. It's like there was a shout out to Jimmy High Roller, but he made a video like literally like a couple of days ago saying like how unlikely it is because you'd need the perfect scenario. And they'd also have to stay in the game. And that's the part that I think with like the NFL. Like I think if we see a quarterback throw for 5 or 6 touchdowns, like I don't know the odds that it's a 14-point game. Like it's probably going to be a 20+ point game, and you're not keeping your superstar quarterback in the game. Like no matter if it's close to a record. Like the NFL is a lot different because I think it's more likely to injury. The NBA, if we see a player get 70, like sure, you have them go out there and try to get it. But if a quarterback has 6 touchdowns entering the fourth quarter, he's not playing. He's not playing unless somehow their defense is the worst. But we've seen Joe Burrow have some crazy games, and the Bengals have a rough defense.
Quarterback to
I was gonna say that's probably the most likely. I mean, I know Lamar, Jackson 5. He's got a ton of 5 touchdown pieces, but yeah, I don't know if a lot of these are even really possible.
4 more to break the record.
Right. So I mean I'd hope so. Trust me, I'm down to go watch Joe Burrow sling a dozen of those things in a single game, but I just don't know how realistic that is. But yeah, we'll just, I mean, I want to say we'll just go ahead and jump into these grades because we have a ton to get into. And this video or episode, I should say, is probably going to be 2 hours plus. You know what? We'll start here before we get into all these teams and these grades and everything. Some massive news went down in the NFL. I mean, you look at the last video that we had, which a big portion of it was the Maxx Crosby trade, and that got rescinded. The Ravens backed out of the trade. It was wild news to see on my timeline, my phone blowing up with a bunch of people. And, you know, there's been a lot of back and forth with the reports going out. You know, some people say, oh, the Ravens GM, he got cold feet. You know, he really thought about it. He didn't want to trade the picks anymore. Some people thought there was some shady stuff going under the table where they were, you know, trying to deal with Trey Hendrickson. Or once they realized that Trey Hendrickson was available, they, you know, backed out of the Crosby trade, which I think is probably the most realistic thing. But there's also been reports where their goal was to try to team up Trey Hendrickson and Maxx Crosby, which I don't even know how that would have been possible. That's why I don't even really believe those reports. I mean, here is like
salary cap doesn't exist.
Here is like a brief timeline of really what went down through this past week regarding the Ravens and teams involved. So there were 4 or 5 teams, including the Eagles, Colts, and Bills, that were in talks with Trey Hendrickson's camp Tuesday trying to get a deal done. Midday, those talks stalled and communication was lacking. Teams involved got a sense something major had changed behind the scenes, which again, this is why it brings me back to saying like there was something going on. I think the Ravens were a little shady in this, but they did what was best for them, I guess. And then the Ravens jumped in, aggressively started pushing to get a deal done, and then boom, the Maxx Crosby trade failing through became public. And at that point, the other teams realized Hendrickson was going to end up in Baltimore, and by the next morning, it got done. And then all the reports started coming out. And you also have reports like this. Baltimore reportedly had all the information regarding Maxx Crosby's knee and recovery timeline. And it's like, yeah, I mean, that's true. Everybody understood that Crosby just recently got surgery and was going through recovery. Like, and that's the other thing with this. You can't like fail a physical, right? It's just taking a look at your injury and seeing essentially just what's going on with it. It's not like you're not getting graded on this. It's just like you're just checking out what's like what the injury is. Can you get a timeline on it? Can you get a report on it? And that's why a lot of people were also thinking like this was, you know, bigger than that. It's just an odd situation all around, and it obviously involves my team, so I'll give my thoughts on it from the Raiders side. I kind of had accepted the Crosby trade to a point where it was like, I understand that the Raiders are in a heavy rebuild, and to acquire 2 first-round picks to start that, including the 14th overall pick in this year's draft, and who knows where the Ravens are going to be picking next year, but I was kind of like okay with it. As much as I love Crosby on my team and as a player, it was kind of like I knew that it was for the betterment of the team, and over the past few years, the Raiders have been a solid drafting team, so I was kind of all in for it. But considering what the Raiders have done this offseason, we just added an elite edge rusher, a top 3 edge rusher, according to both of us, so I mean, I'll take him back. I'll take him back all day of the week. So, yeah, that's where I really wanted to start this episode before we get into these trades. And it honestly changed the conversations or a lot of conversations that we were going to have during this video. I mean, it's kind of a spoiler, but once we got to our grades and talking about everything, a topic that I wanted to bring up was and I guess we can even still talk about it, as far as the rebuilding teams in the NFL right now, like when that trade went down, I was like, are the Raiders, and this is crazy to say because I've never had this happen for my Raiders before in my life, but are the Raiders in the best position out of any of the rebuilding teams? Like pre-trade, I think it was a no question, or pre take backsy before the trade got rescinded. I had this question on my mind, and I even wrote it down in my notes to talk about during the pod. But after, I'm curious to even get your thoughts. Where do you think, and I have some teams pulled up, the teams that I personally believe are considered the rebuilding teams in the league. Obviously, I mentioned the Raiders, and then you also have the Jets, the Cardinals, the Browns, the Giants, the Titans, and then I have a couple teams that I put question marks on. The Saints, the Dolphins are the two. I think those are like all the teams that I would really label as rebuilding right now. Is it crazy to say that the Raiders are the best, like not the best, but the most set up for success out of those teams, would you say? Or am I just kind of being too biased?
I think you could say that. I don't think they're like uncontested number one. I think there's a couple other teams. Yeah. Honestly, only two other teams that could fight for that. I think the Giants or the Titans.
Yeah, that's fair.
But
I think though they have, more surefire thing at quarterback. You've seen what those two have done in the league, and Mendoza hasn't been in the league.
And the Giants also just being the bigger market of the three. But the Las Vegas is also still a big market. I think what knocks the Titans is they're a smaller market team.
Yeah. If the Raiders were able, if this trade didn't get rescinded, would it be like not a no-brainer, but would you be like, yeah, the Raiders are pretty far and ahead considering they have 4 first-round picks?
Yeah, most likely.
That's the thing. And I was like so ready to like fully dive into that conversation and talk about it. And obviously we still can have a little bit of banter about it, but it just changes it. I mean, -2 first-round picks is a lot. And obviously the odds that we draft a player better than Crosby or even really close to him is extremely slim. It's an all-pro type of player. It's very difficult to get those guys. So I'm not mad at it or anything, but I was accepting the move on, and I'm welcoming him back with open arms. So that's kind of the little chatter I wanted to get into before we started our grades, and let's just jump right into it. We got 32 teams to talk about. We're already over 20 minutes into this episode, so it's going to get a little bit long, and I want to emphasize something before we get into these teams, right? It's not just as black as white as, this team signed these players, that's their grade, right? Obviously, we talked about where we're looking at the trades they made, the players they lost, the players they signed, what did they sign for? What were the expectations for this team? Did they have a lot of money? Did they, give out that money to quality players at team or at positions of need? A bunch of things like that are going to go into play, and we're obviously going to be talking about all 32 teams in this episode, but there's going to be teams that probably only get 1 minute, 2 minutes of air time, and there's going to be other teams that killed free agency or maybe didn't, and we want to talk about them a little bit longer, and maybe they'll get 4 or 5 minutes. But all 32 teams will be talked about in this episode. So let's just start this thing off. We're starting out in the AFC East, a team that has Super Bowl expectations every single year pretty much, in the Buffalo Bills. Do you want to do a 3-2-1 and we grade? Do you want to just, I'll give mine to start, then you go, and then the next team you start, and we kind of go back and forth? How do you want to do these grades?
We just say the grade, I think.
Just say it at the same time?
Yeah. I don't think we got to, count down or nothing.
Okay, so
I got a C+.
For the Bills, I gave a D+. This was one of the teams that I actually gave a D. So I'll start first since I gave them a lower grade. I think one thing that really gets me with this team is, I guess it might be a little unfair, but I didn't necessarily just look at it as solely as this, free agency pool and the players they brought in. I think they brought in a lot of older players and a lot of players that I just don't really like on their defense. I don't like Bradley Chubb and the deal they gave him. I'm not a huge fan of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson on the 1-year deal. I'm not a huge fan of the D. Alford deal. And the DJ Moore for a second-round pick is just a lot. It's a lot. And I understand it from it's kind of from both sides, where it's like this team has historically in the Josh Allen era been a really, really bad drafting team. I mean, outside of the 2022 draft, they miss a lot. It's not a lot of great players. So I guess you can say they probably would have missed on a player anyway. But considering that I have no faith in this team to hit on the draft in any rotational or starter level players, I don't love a free agency for them. And, they didn't come into this free agency with a lot of money. You know what I mean? They came in with negative money. And you could point to, hey, they got a receiver upgrade in that room. They were able to re-sign a key player in their offensive line. They were able to sign Dawson Knox to a new deal, certain things like that. But I don't know. I think a team that has Super Bowl expectations every year, I don't think they did anything for me personally that's going to move the needle. And I don't have any faith that this team can go out there and draft somebody in the first round or in the third round or in the fourth round that is going to really alter that during the season. So that's ultimately what led me to give them a D+.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't do a whole lot. I mean, like you said, their biggest move is probably trading for DJ Moore, which, it could result to being, a positive for them. They did give up the second round pick, but, DJ Moore has shown that he can be a wide receiver one, or, for a team at least, not a great, not a top 10 receiver in the league, but, he could be a top 20, close to top 20. He's had some years like that. But, yeah, I mean, they re-signed, Connor McGovern, their center, one of the better centers in the league. Not like anything crazy, but I don't think he's a horrible player. Mm-hmm. Bradley Chubb, it's kind of a lot of money, but, all right player. D. Alford has not really been a great football player. I think as a Falcon fan, though, he actually played some pretty good ball this season. Contrary to the season before, he was like one of the worst corners in the league statistically. But this season, he actually played some very solid ball. So, maybe they can build on that. But, yeah, I don't think they did too much. I don't think they did anything too bad. I think the worst thing they did was like the DJ Moore trade, which, they're trying to get weapons around, Josh Allen. They drafted Keon Coleman, first pick in the second round. I mean, they brought guys in all through Josh Allen's career. I mean, they're trying to get him weapons. And, I don't know if this was the best option available. I think they probably could have went into free agency and maybe try to get somebody. But, I mean, we've seen all these receivers in free agency. They're getting some bags. I don't think they could have signed any.
Oh, yeah.
And,
no way.
Yeah, I don't think they had the cap space for that, or at least one of the better ones. So, I guess they're going to try and take a swing on DJ Moore, and the Bears won that negotiation and got a second-round pick out of it. But, yeah, I give him a C+.
That's fair. It's a fair grade.
I don't hate it. I don't love it or anything, but, yeah, I let it on a C+.
I think I'm just super harsh considering I want this team to be in a position to succeed with Allen, and I feel like they just come up short and they make a lot of terrible plays along the way. But, yeah. The next team on the list is the Miami Dolphins. I'll start with my grade. I gave this team a B-.
I gave them a C+.
Yeah, so pretty much really similar. This is a team probably won't spend too much time on, but I think my biggest thing, I believe Malik Willis is a starter in this league, and you got him on a 3-year, $67.5 million deal with $45 million fully guaranteed. A team that is obviously in a rebuild, and I think they brought in some solid players on defense that I like, but I think Malik Willis is really the star of this offseason for them. And yeah, like I mentioned, I think he's a starter level quarterback in this league, and you get him on a very, very good deal for 3 years. A nice bridge quarterback to hopefully potentially draft or find your quarterback. And who knows? Maybe Malik Willis is a star. Maybe he just really had that rough start in Tennessee, and this guy comes out and he's a solid, top half quarterback in this league. Who knows? But I just really like that deal. I really like that for them. So that's why I landed at a B-.
Yeah. C+. They didn't really do. I mean, they signed a lot of players, but not a lot of heavy hitters. Obviously, the biggest one is they landed the Malik Willis contract. They were the ones that were able to get him. Like you said, 3 years, 67.5. Not too bad of a contract. Pretty good. Trying to think of what they really lost. Obviously, they had to cut. They cut Tua. They took a big cap hit on that.
Yeah.
That's why I always wondered though, their cap space before free agency was at $8 million. What? How are they? I don't know. Maybe I'm just. I don't understand cap, but how are they able to sign a Malik Willis, somebody who's going to be making what, 20-something million a year?
I think when they cut Tua, it's like a mixture. They got money, but they also took on a lot of dead cap.
His dead cap was at $99 million or something, right?
Yeah, it is a really honestly, yeah, it's tough.
But I mean, C+. I mean, like we said, they didn't have a lot of money going into it, which is probably why they didn't make a lot of bigger deals. A lot of 1 years. Josh Uche, solid player. Willie Gay, all right. Just some players there. Yeah, C+ for me.
Yeah, and I'm looking at it just right before we go on. Yeah, the Dolphins they have $89 million in dead cap. Still number one, or dead money, I should say. Still number one is the Saints at $113 million. But sheesh. All right. Sorry for the dog barking in the background. You get a little bit of that. The next team that we'll move on to is the New England Patriots.
I didn't fresh at A-.
The Super Bowl. I gave this team a B- as well. You're a little bit higher on them, so I'll go ahead and start it out. You can go ahead and get into that.
I mean, I like the Elijah Vera Tucker signing. I love the Romeo Doubs signing. Kevin Byard, on a one year deal. Why not? I think they didn't do a whole lot. They signed what? Six players. Mm-hmm. But I think a couple of those are some real key contributors that are gonna help their team. And this is a team that just went to the Super Bowl, and they need a lot of help on that interior offensive line, or really across the offensive line. I think Elijah Vera Tucker's a great player. I think Romeo Doubs, 4 year, $70 million deal. I don't think that's too bad. I think he can be a really good player over there in New England. I think he showed flashes. He's a really good route runner. I think him and Drake May could have a really nice connection. And like we said, Kevin Byard, just a veteran, savvy player. Did he make All-Pro last year?
Yeah, he was first team.
Yeah, first team All-Pro. Getting older up there, but safeties. That's a position that kind of ages well. Mm-hmm. I think he'll still be a great player, great addition to that team.
Yeah,
and re-signing Draymond Jones. No, not re-signing. They picked up Draymond Jones, Julian Hill, whatever. Reggie Gillum. All right, fullback. I don't really know how much fullbacks are used anymore, but maybe they could use him.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. I think I was a little bit lower on this. This is a team that came in with a good amount of money going into this free agency, and this grade changes a lot if they're able to pull off the A.J. Brown trade, depending on how much they give up. But talks have really stalled out with the A.J. Brown news, so I'm really not confident if he is 100% going to get traded this offseason. That's kind of really what it looked like, but still nothing done yet. And I've seen some reports also say that it's probably going to happen post June 1st, which I don't know, but, we'll have to see. Anyway, back to the Patriots. I think for the most part, I like their signings. I really don't know if Romeo Doubs is a wide receiver one in this league. I think the Patriots are potentially going down that route where kind of like the Packers, where Romeo Doubs came from. They just have a lot of wide receiver 2s to wide receiver 3s. And I would have liked them to go out there and, make a play on a more surefire guy. And again, that's where I bring up the A.J. Brown thing again. If they're able to pull that off, it changes it a lot. But, Byard on a 1-year deal is not too bad. I think you can see a lot with some of these safeties and DBs in the market. There were a lot of teams that were turned off by these players, regardless of the numbers. A lot of DBs in this free agency signed 1-year deals. Kevin Byard ends up in New England, where he can definitely be a playmaker for that defense. I think Vera Tucker is solid. I don't think he had a little stint there for his first, 2 or so years in the league, and I think he's dipped a little bit down since then. But, yeah, I think it's just an overall solid free agency. I don't think, me personally, it's not like one of the best. I'm not out here saying this is like a top 5 free agency or anything for me, but I think it's probably in like a 10 to 13 range for me personally. So I give him a B-.
Yeah, I really liked it. I did say I had it. I did say I forgot to mention on I did say A- or B+. So I was fluctuating in between those two, but I put A- first because just off the top, I don't know. I really like the players they signed.
Yeah. The last team in this division is the New York Jets. If I'm not mistaken, I gave this team also a B- for their offseason.
C+ for me.
C+. Yeah, similar veins here. I'll go ahead and start with this team. I think at the end of the day, the Jets were one of the laughing stocks of the league last year, and I think they got better, and they should be a lot better on defense. And sometimes that's what it's all about. I get it. Some people are like, with some of these teams in the league, should they be tanking? Should they be trying to get that number 1 pick? A lot of people have their jobs on the line, and specifically their head coach. So they had to improve the team all around, and I think they did that on a lot of areas. So the Jets are probably only 1 or 2 more games better, but I think they got embarrassed too much last year, and I think the moves that they made allow them, not to get embarrassed as much. So I think that's a big thing for them. So I gave the Jets a B-. And C+, You're probably on the same boat there.
Yeah, I mean, they had a lot of money to spend, and
they signed a lot of players.
And I mean, signed some solid players here and there. A lot to go over, but I'm not gonna go over every name. But yeah, just basically like Devin said, they really addressed that defensive side though.
Yeah,
I mean they got their quarterback going into next year.
Right, Geno Smith. I mean,
Geno, so.
To be fair, you look at he gifted the Seahawks, Sam Darnold, and the Raiders, Fernando Mendoza. So who knows? Maybe he gifts the New York Jets, Arch Manning, but we'll have to see.
Geno and Garrett Wilson in a dream next year.
I also like the Tavondre Sweat trade. I want to put that out there. We talked about that when it happened, but I like that for them. So Jets at a B-. Next division that we're getting to is the AFC North, starting out with the Ravens. Where did you – I'm curious to see where you graded the Ravens.
I was curious to see where you graded the Ravens. That's what I was going to say.
I have the Ravens at a C-. I was not a fan.
B-.
Yeah, I was not a huge fan of the Ravens free agency. I get it. They were kind of pigeonholed. They couldn't really bring back a lot of players, and they lost a ton of players in this cycle. And, the whole Maxx Crosby news debacle that we got into at the start of this episode, I'm kind of torn and back and forth between it. Would I rather have Maxx Crosby or Trey Hendrickson and 2 first-round picks? I think a lot of people would side with Trey Hendrickson in the picks, and I'm not saying that you're wrong, but I just really think there's a huge gap between Trey and Maxx, and Trey is 3 years older, 3.5 years older, something like that. I think he's 32 now, or he's turning 32 before the season. It's a really old pass rusher. You sign him to a massive deal, coming off a pretty decent injury. I'm not a huge fan. And as I mentioned, they lost 2 of their tight ends, which is a focal point of this offense. I mean, we're not counting that, but I like Jesse Minter as their new coach. I think their defense will still be good, but I don't know. And then there's the whole Lamar Jackson, extension news and how that's going to work and everything. I don't know. I just wasn't a huge fan of it. Me personally. I think even if you keep the Crosby trade, it's probably only like a C plus for me, but I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of it.
Yeah, I think looking back when we graded the Crosby trade, we both gave him good grades.
Yeah.
I think obviously I don't know what went down with why they backed out of it, but I think them backing out of it kind of saved them a little bit. I mean, they keep 2 first-round picks. Obviously, this isn't really going into the grade, but I mean, who knows? I mean, we'll never know what that physical looked like. I mean, those stuff that isn't going to come out to the public, like maybe there was something they saw in Maxx Crosby's injury that wasn't listed, or I don't know. Maybe there's just something they really didn't like, or maybe they did just get cold feet and back out and want to keep their first-round picks and sign Trey Hendrickson, who felt like his injury wasn't as bad as Max's. But I like John Simpson. I think he's a really good player coming from that Jets offensive line that was really good last year. Jalen Hawkins and his, little stint with the Patriots, he balled out last year. I think that was a pretty decent signing. And, yeah, I mean, re-sign Tyler Huntley, I guess. As their backup.
Yeah, that's Lamar's
maybe I'm
boy.
a little too high on it, B-, but I don't know. I don't hate it.
Yeah, I don't think
I like
a
their
B-
big three. I like their
crazy.
big 3 signings: John Simpson, Trey Hendrickson, and Jalen Hawkins. But that's what I was saying. Also, before we even started, I can't off the top of my head remember what these teams lost. With you saying that now, it does click that they did lose a lot of players.
Well, I know they lost their 2 tight ends for sure, and Likely, and his name's gonna slip my mind, but he went to the Chargers. We'll talk about him. No, not this Mark Andrews, but we'll talk about him when we get to the Chargers, because that's actually a really good signing for them. I know that they lost Keaton Mitchell, which isn't like that big of a loss. Also to the Chargers, funny enough. Technically, they lost Maxx Crosby. I'm trying to think of any other ones off the top of my head.
Just went over
that's true.
But, I mean, their defense was pretty bad last year.
I really think those 2 tight ends are huge losses. I don't know. I just think people don't realize how much the Ravens utilize tight ends, and Mark Andrews is certainly not the player he once was, and those 2 that they lost are the focal point of their offense. So that's really why it was pretty low for me. But the next team in this division we'll get to is the Cincinnati Bengals. If these teams didn't sign fucking a bunch of players, it probably would be smart to be listing off who they signed. That's probably a little bit better. I'll go through it real quick for every single team. We didn't do it for the runs, but we'll go. They signed Josh Johnson, Orlando Brown Jr., Dalton Reisner, Boye Mafe, Jonathan Allen, Jalen Davis, and Brian Cook. Not, some of these players that I'll be listing for the teams are not all trades or signings or whatever, but this is who they acquired. If I'm not mistaken, I landed the Bengals at a C. It's a flat C.
Yeah, C plus.
Yeah. Not a lot. I think Boye Mafe is a solid signing. Jonathan Allen had a rough stint with Minnesota last year. Yeah, just not a lot that I really love here. Brian Cook, the Bengals have historically not been great with signing safeties and DBs and free agency. So I don't know. Dalton Reisner, Orlando Brown Jr. back on the offensive line. I don't know. It's just doesn't really move me. Not a lot that I love here, to be honest. And a team that went into free agency with a good amount of money, and that's the results of it. Just not a huge fan personally.
Yeah. I think they kind of signed some big names. I think Jonathan Allen's best years are behind him, but I think he can still be a decent player, I guess. Boye Mafe, Sir Trey Hendrickson replacement, Brian Cook. He's all right with the Chiefs. Maybe he could be good with the Bengals. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's not a lot to talk about with this one.
Yeah. Next team in this division, Cleveland Browns. They bring in Jack Stoll, Titus Howard, Tevin Jenkins, Zion Johnson, Elton Jenkins, Quincy Williams, and Corey Bojorquez. The Cleveland Browns I had graded out as a C+.
Me as well. C+.
Yeah. I think I like the fact that they addressed the offensive line, but I just don't entirely love all the players, I think. Quincy Williams, had a solid year, not last year, but previously. And I would like to say that I like that signing, but I really am not the biggest fan of it. Yeah, it's just an okay. Just an okay like free agency. Again, they addressed the need, which was the offensive line. It's just the players I don't specifically love, so that's why it falls for a C+ for me.
Yeah. Zion Johnson, I think he's probably the best player on that Chargers offensive line last year, which doesn't say a lot. Mm-hmm. With all the tackles hurt and all that, but he's all right. Elton Jenkins, I didn't know he was that bad anymore to get released by the Packers.
Yeah,
I don't know. I haven't been keeping up with too much Elton Jenkins ball. I know he was really good a couple years ago, but I guess he kind of fell off for them to release him. Yeah. So, Quincy Williams, that's going to be interesting. Him and Schlesinger back there.
Yeah.
It'll be a fun little linebacker duo to watch. It's a good signing.
Yeah.
Titus Howard. Okay.
Acquired in a trade. The last team in this division is the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they did a lot. They brought in Rico Dowdle, Michael Pittman, Jack Driscoll, Cam Hayward, Azesi Otemu, Cole Holcomb, Jamel Dean, Asante Samuel Jr., Jaquan Brisker, and Darnell Savage. I want to say I gave the Steelers a pretty low grade.
Really?
Yeah, I gave them a C. And
what?
I'll let you go before I get into my reasoning for a C. What was your grade for them? What, like a B+ or something?
Yeah, I give them an A-.
Okay. Yeah, you can go ahead and dive into it then, and I'll jump in afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, I just like the players they signed. I mean, I don't know, unless there's some players they lost that I'm missing, and that's what you're factoring in. But I don't know. I mean, Rico Dowdle, he's a solid player. Traded for Michael Pittman, that's cool. Some more weapons on that offense that didn't really have a lot, especially after losing Pickens. Extending Cam Hayward, love that. Still a beast, even at his age. One of the best interior defensive linemen in the league, if not the best. Nah, not the best, but one of the best. Cole Holcomb resigning, solid. Jamel Dean, he was really good last year. Sante Samuels, whatever, I guess. He was solid for them last year. And, two safeties, Jaquan Brisker and Darnell Savage. I don't hate those. I don't know. Yeah. I really like their free agency.
Yeah, I think my personal, discourse with it is like I don't hate the players specifically that they signed or that they traded for. I think it's just the fact that I want the Steelers to be bad. And I don't think they're achieving that. I think they're still
if they were
going
bad,
to
though,
be,
they wouldn't have hired Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, that's the thing.
If they
though.
wanted to be bad.
That's why it's like, and I guess maybe that's a bad way. I mean, Aaron Rodgers also hasn't even fully committed to coming back yet. So I don't know what their quarterback situation is going to look like. So maybe even if they do all this, it won't matter. Maybe they'll still be terrible next year. But I don't know. I think I'm just looking too much into it. I'm looking at it from an internet GM perspective, but I think they continue to just bring in these, Jalen Ramseys, DK Metcalfs, Darius Slay. They want to bring in like competitive players every single year, and it's like, dude, just bottom out. Like, just be okay with being bad. I don't know. I think I'm just looking too much into it. But you're probably right as far as I think I'm a little too. I don't think I'd get into like the B's or anything. I think I'd maybe bump it up to like a C plus just because I really care about the point that I made. But I do like the players. I do like the players.
And I think even with Aaron Rodgers, even if he doesn't come back, I think with whatever quarterback they roll out with, is in a solid situation to be not it be a dumpster fire.
Yeah,
I think they have some weapons there now. Yeah.
Definitely the most interesting wide receiver duo in the league, DK Metcalf and Michael Pittman.
100%.
Just an odd receiving duo. The next division we're getting to is the AFC South, starting out with the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans, I gave a grade of a B, flat B.
I gave B plus.
Okay, a little bit higher on it. Yeah, this is the team. I guess I'll also get into their signings. They traded for David Montgomery, and they acquired Foster Moreau, Dalton Schultz, Evan Brown, Trent Brown, Braden Smith, Ed Ingram, Daniil Hunter, Logan Hall, Dominique Robinson, Naquan Jones, Sheldon Rankins, EJ Speed, Reed Blankenship, MJ Stewart, Kaimi Fairbairn, and Kai Kroger. A lot of trades, re-signings, extensions, a bunch of different things mixed up in there. And I landed them at a B. They made an emphasis to address the offensive line. That was a huge thing. They also extended, one of the better defensive players in the league, and Daniil Hunter, to a massive $40 million extension, which, was rightfully earned. I think Reed Blankenship is a solid player in this league. I don't really mind that. EJ Speed, I'm actually a pretty solid fan of that signing. And the David Montgomery trade is not too bad as well. You get a running back duo with him back there. So I don't really mind this free agency at all. I actually quite like it, landing my grade at a B.
Yeah, I mean, I think they just, they improved the offensive line by a player. They got a running back, which I guess trades aren't really free agency, but
yeah, it's more just
still talk. Yeah,
again, it's just the overall offseason.
I was just thinking about it. Yeah, that they got that defensive line. Some more depth on that defensive line while keeping the other star, Daniil Hunter, kind of a hefty contract, but he deserves it. Signing Reed Blankenship, that'll be nice. They were able to keep Kaimi Fairbairn, signed him to a 2-year, one of the better kickers in the league, making him the highest kicker in the league too. Yeah, I like that. Big quantity here, and usually with these big quantity, free agencies, I usually tend to like them a lot. I don't know. I like when a lot of teams bring in a lot of players.
Yeah. Gives them depth. You said that was a B for you as well. You said
that's B plus.
B plus. Okay, a little bit higher than me. The next team in this division is the Indianapolis Colts. I'm curious to where you have the Colts graded out as. So I want to hear what you have to say first.
I had them at a B minus.
Wow. This is our furthest one, I would say.
This can't be for you had them at an F?
No, I had them as a D+. So,
Okay.
I don't know. I guess I think the Daniel Jones deal was a lot. I obviously they had that weird like what they call it, a transition tag that is pretty rare for quarterbacks in the NFL, but I don't know if Daniel Jones' market really demanded him to get a 2-year, $88 million deal, and that's what they landed on. Alec Pierce signed for the highest amount of money that a free agent wide receiver has ever signed for. 4 years, $114 million. That's just a lot, and I get it. He was great last year.
Yeah, that's like one of those contracts where it's like they're signing him and they're hoping for like, I don't know. Like he hasn't proved to be worth that much. He's shown that he can be. And it's like we're going to have to really see if he's worth that, I guess. Like you just see the flashes, and I guess that warranted them to give him. It is a big contract. I think he's a great player, though. I mean, he's one of the best deep threats in the league.
I thought he could have been a player for the Raiders, but I mean, for that contract, I just can't do it. And I also don't like really love the other deals they made. I understand this is a team that, couldn't really make a ton of moves, but the moves
this is like what I don't get.
I don't.
This team was minus $100,000 in the cap space going into free agency. How the hell are they able to put out this many deals
with the re-signing players? I think they're able to get away with it, but also
how is Alec Pierce's rookie contract anywhere close to what he just got? Same with Daniel Jones.
I think it's more like I think you're allowed to go. Oh, it's like what do they call it? It's like restricted free agents in the NBA. I think as long as it's your player, you're able to go over the cap. I don't know if that's exactly how it is, but that would be my best guess at it. And again, like even with their signings that they did make, a lot of 1-year small deals and even 2-year small deals, and it's like, I don't know. I wasn't a big fan of it. The 2 massive re-signs are what's really pushing me away from this team. I get it. You almost are in a pickle where it's like, who is your quarterback if it's not Daniel Jones? Who's your receiver if it's not Alec Pierce? So I don't know. I didn't love it. So it landed at a D+ for me. What did you say? B-?
I said B-, yeah.
Yeah,
they're overpaying, but I like the Alec Pierce deal at the same time. I liked holding on to him. The Daniel Jones, I said I wouldn't franchise that. I wouldn't pay him that. I think that's what's kind of maybe I should have factored that in more, and maybe I should bump this down maybe to like a C+, because I do not actually like that. But I like everything else they did. Arden Key, good depth on the defensive line. Derek Nottie, good depth. Kobe Wooden, great depth too. Also getting off of Zaire Franklin, who isn't really that great of a player. Jonathan Owens, you get a little PR bump with that one, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't hate it. I don't hate the Alec Pierce deal, even though it's a lot of money. But I think he's still a great player. It's going to be interesting to see if he, can live up to that type of contract, which I think he could. I don't know. I always like those type of players, those deep threats that don't get a high volume of receptions, but they're hitting like 1,000 yards. He 1,000 yards on like 40 catches.
That's the thing. He did that one time, and you gave him $114 million. I don't know. We'll have to see. Time will tell. With the Colts. The next team in this division, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Their offseason looks like bringing in DJ Dallas, Chris Rodriguez, Quentin Morris, Dennis Gardeck, Matt Dickerson, and Montarac Brown. What did I give the Jacksonville Jaguars? They landed at a C for me.
I gave them a D.
Yeah, a team that
This is mainly factoring in on what they didn't do.
Yeah.
And losing like Devin Lloyd. I think that was
right.
a travesty.
Yeah, and he went to, I mean, we'll get to that, but man, did he go on a steal of a contract. Yeah, Jaguars didn't do a whole lot. I don't really know if there was much that they could do, but man, I don't like this. A team that's coming off a really successful year last year, a playoff berth, almost beating the Buffalo Bills in that playoff game, and yeah, I don't like this. We'll have to see what their draft looks like, but free agency wise, I'm not a fan at all. A C from me and a D grade from Jaden. The Tennessee Titans, one of the busiest teams that we have in free agency. Buckle up for these acquisitions. Mitchell Trubisky, Wan'Dale Robinson, Daniel Bellinger, Kylan Granson, Cordell Volson, Austin Schlottman, Jermaine Johnson, Jacob Martin, Jordan Elliott, John Franklin Myers, Malik Herring, Solomon Thomas, Cordell Flott, Alante Taylor, Joshua Williams, Joey Sly, Morgan Cox, and Tommy Townsend. The grade that I gave the Titans was a B-.
Give them a B.
Yeah, both similar. This is a team that obviously needed to spend a lot of money, and they improved a lot. I think they improved a lot on the defense. I think Wan'Dale Robinson on a 4-year, $78 million deal is solid. I mean, you need weapons for Cam Ward to be successful, and they certainly got that. Wan'Dale was solid last year, a guy that, really benefited off his high volume, but I think he can still flourish without that. And on the defensive side, as I mentioned, they improved the defensive line a lot, brought in a lot of players on that line. And
their defensive line is going to be scary.
Yeah. So I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all for the Titans. So they land at a B, or what I say, B- for me, B for Jaden. And it's also very funny. Robert Saleh cannot coach a defense without Solomon Thomas. He was with him in San Francisco, with him with the Jets, and now with him with the Titans. There's just certain coaches that have their guys, and Solomon Thomas is, Saleh's guy. That's very, very apparent. Anything you wanted to add real quick before we move on to the next division, or?
No, not much. I mean, signed a lot of players. Had a lot of money. I like the Wan'Dale Robinson. I think it'll be a great weapon for Cam Ward. Mm-hmm. Like I said, their defensive line. I love their defensive line with these additions. John Franklin Myers, Jermaine Johnson, Jacob Martin, Jordan Elliott. I don't know too much about, but, I'm sure Saleh's going to know how to put these guys to work. Jeffrey Simmons already in the mix. Yeah, it's going to be a great defensive line.
Yeah. Moving to, I believe, our last AFC division, and that will start out with the Denver Broncos. I'm going to keep this short and sweet. The Broncos got an F from me.
Yeah, Broncos got a big D. Probably a D-.
Yeah, honestly, there's going to be a lot of teams that we're not going to spend much time on.
I don't get it, though.
Man.
I don't know. What
the Broncos fans don't understand it at all.
Sean Payton decided to take a nap. Whoever the GM is, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, just ugly stuff from the Broncos. A team that was a game away from the Super Bowl, and this is what their offseason is looking like so far. I mean, I have not seen one and also releasing Dre Greenlaw. I haven't seen one Bronco fan be a fan of that. Everybody hates that move. And I was also puzzled when I saw it come across the timeline. So just a mess. I don't even want to. I'm sure Broncos fans are getting tired of hearing it, so we won't belabor on the point. But an F from me, and we'll leave it at that. The next team in this division is the Kansas City Chiefs. They bring in Kenneth Walker, Tyquan Thornton, Travis Kelce, Kyrus Tonga, Cater Kohu Alo. Man, I'm bad with names. I don't even know why I'm trying to do this. If I don't know how to say their name, I'm just going to stop. And these are players
Gilman.
These are players that I obviously know, but I obviously am terrible with names. I think the Chiefs I gave a pretty good grade to.
No James Chiefs. Winchester shout? Long snapper?
Yeah, shout out my boy. What did I give the Chiefs? The Chiefs I gave a B+. I gave the Chiefs a B+.
I just don't think they did a lot other than getting Kenneth Walker.
I think the one thing that I factored into this, though, Kenneth Walker signing on a 3-year deal means that they don't, well, if he were to fall to them, they don't have to target Jeremiah Love in the draft. They can go elsewhere. They also brought back, a couple players that I'm a fan of. I thought Tyquan Thornton was he had some very high ups and some very low lows for them. But also, they acquired an extra first-round pick, trading away Trent McDuffie. So I'm factoring that into their, free agency, essentially. They're walking away with an extra pick in this draft. So I think the Kenneth Walker plus the pick, it really boosts that up for me because, again, they can go so many different positions at that number 9 spot and then double dip the chip at what, 29
Caleb
in the draft.
So Kansas City.
Yeah, so they can do a lot in the draft, and I think that's kind of what's boosting this grade, which I'm not sure if that's very fair, but it kind of is, like, taking into account that singular pick, the Rams pick that they got. But yeah, I gave the Chiefs a B+, a team that necessarily wasn't expected to do a whole lot of crazy things in this offseason. To bring in a player like Kenneth Walker and an extra first-round pick, that's huge for a team that, not too long ago just went to 3 consecutive Super Bowls. The next team, which you guys should know this, is the Las Vegas Raiders. Man, did they have a haul. Connor Hayward, Jalen Naylor, Tyler Linderbaum, Malcolm Kuntz, Kwity Paye, Nakobe Dean, Quay Walker, Teron Johnson, Eric Stokes, and Matt Gay. You can probably guess what my grade is, but I'm curious where your grade is at. And I'm hoping.
Actually, I don't know what your grade is.
Let's see. What did you grade it? Are we on the same page or are we not?
I gave it a B+.
I gave it the highest grade of the episode. I'll spoil it. I gave the Raiders an A. I will start off with my reasonings for that. I think the Raiders executed on what they should have been doing for a very long time. That is, A, hit the reset button, go into a full rebuild, where last year they go out there and they commit to losing the most games in the NFL and resulting in the number 1 overall pick. And now they are going into a window where they should be a competitive rebuilding team. This is a team that next year, I'm not trying to be like other Raider fans and people in the media and convince you that this team is going to a sneaky playoff team. I truly don't believe that, but I think this team is going to be 3 to 4 times better than they were last year, which they won 2 games. So I think this team has a chance to be a 6 to 7 to 8 win team next year, and that's a massive improvement. I'm not sitting here going to tell you that they're going to be a double-digit win team and be second in their division or this and that, or even potentially win it like some people say, but they made a ton of valuable additions. This receiving room is ugly. They bring in Jalen Naylor, on a very, very good deal, in my opinion. The Tyler Linderbaum is certainly an overpay, but the Raiders had a salary floor that they had to hit, and they wanted to make sure that they got their guy. And Linderbaum is not only the second best center in the league, you could even argue first. Creed Humphrey, was solid this past year. Wasn't to the highs that he had the previous years, but I still think he's the best. So Tyler Linderbaum, second best center. And he's also just flat out one of the better offensive linemen in the league. And on a Clint Kubiak offense, that's what you need. And on defense, bringing in a ton of real players. Teron Johnson is, one of the best slot players in the league. Quay Walker and Nakobe Dean as a linebacking duo. You bring in Kwity Paye. Malcolm Kuntz is re-signed on a 1-year deal. Eric Stokes had an amazing year last year for the Raiders. This is the team that I've spent the most time talking about. Rightfully so. It's my team. I won't spend too much time on it. But, yeah. And they also bring in a top 3 edge rusher for 2 first-round picks, essentially, in Maxx Crosby. So the Raiders, I think, had the best offseason, in my opinion, and it results in the highest grade for me.
So you think there's no chance Maxx Crosby gets moved still? You think they're just gonna sit on him?
I mean, that's what the reports are. You know, Crosby is set on playing for the Raiders. That's his mindset. You know, the calls for Crosby have kind of dwindled down. There are certain teams that are still showing interest, but I mean, with the red flags, with the
I haven't looked into the reportings much.
Yeah,
but I would think some of the calls might shoot. I don't know. I feel like that make teams want to maybe think that they could grab him for cheaper. Because certainly, if he were to go, it wouldn't probably be for 2 first-round picks. Again,
and I think that's also a thing where it's like I think the Raiders understand that. Where
the Raiders they're going to kind of close the door on that now. You think?
Yeah, I don't think that they're going to move him for a single first-round pick or even multiple seconds in a player or something like that. I think it's a thing where it's just he's too talented of a player to move off for that little. And I've seen some people say maybe he gets moved at the deadline. Maybe he comes back and the first 6 to 8 games he's balling out, looking like a defensive player of the year candidate, and then a desperate team out there, maybe like the Bills or something, some type of team goes out there and trades a couple first round picks. But yeah, I would say 90% sure Crosby starts the season in a Raider uniform. Very, very positive of that. But you were a little bit lower on them. Am I being too biased here, or would you?
No, I think losing the Maxx Crosby trade is what bumped it down a lot for me.
Yeah,
in my opinion. I think it would have been an A or an A- if they would have.
So you had them
or been able.
You had the Raiders at a B. You said a flat B.
B plus.
Okay.
I think if they would have been able to still pull out the Maxx Crosby trade, get the 2 first-round picks, I think it probably would have been an A.
Yeah.
Or A-. But yeah.
That's fair. All right. Next team on the list is the Los Angeles Chargers. All right. I'm done doing this reading every single player because these teams have too many. The Chargers brought in, we'll still talk about a couple players that they brought in. Where did I land the Chargers at? I landed the Chargers at a B, flat B.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I think they're having right. I think they're having a bit of an underrated free agency. I think that Keaton Mitchell could be a huge signing. Alec Ingold, Charlie Kohler, those guys I think are going to fit really well in a Mike McDaniel offense. I think Tyler Biadasz is a really underrated signing, 3 years, $30 million, one of the better offensive linemen that were available in this free agency. Re-signing Khalil Mack, I think is never a bad thing. So
just remembering, just in general, their offensive line would get better. They're getting their 2 tackles back, the 2 star tackles.
Right.
I think this might be one of the bigger jumps from being the worst offensive line in the league to one of the best in just 1 year.
Right. As long as they stay healthy.
And then their tackles getting healthier.
Yeah, as long as they stay healthy, because that has forever been the Chargers' curse. So I personally am a little bit higher than I think some people are, or I guess we both are a little bit higher than I think a lot of people are on the Chargers. A lot of people have been getting on the Chargers and Broncos and certain things like that for their free agencies, but I personally am a fan of what the Chargers did this offseason. So I got them at a B. Let me see. The next division that we'll be jumping to is our first NFC division. That is the NFC East. Starting out with the Cowboys. And the Cowboys, I gave a grade of a B-. I
gave them a B.
Yeah, pretty similar on there. I like the Javonte Williams re-signing. George Pickens comes back on the franchise tag. I don't know how likely it is that they'll keep him longer than that, but it is what it is. I almost wanted to bring this down because of the trade that they made with the who did they trade with? With the 49ers, Oso Adigizua. I was very close on bringing it down because Oso's a good player. He's a really good player. And I thought, trading him away for a third-round pick was not my favorite move, but he's a player that's going to be required to, get paid, and it's a team that certainly does not have a whole lot of money, so it's not the worst thing. I think Rashawn Gary is like, I don't know if that's a worthwhile gamble, but he's had some good years. But I think the Javonte and the George Pickens are the really big ones that I'm focusing on here. And again, a team that didn't necessarily go into this free agency expecting a ton. I think to retain their players, that's a part that I really value. So the Cowboys ended up at what did I say, a C+ for me. So
I think you said B-, no?
Did I say that? Let me check my notes. Yeah, I did. B-. Sorry about that.
Yeah, like you said, they're two players that they were able to retain. You got some depth on the defensive side. I still believe Rashawn Gary can be Maxx Crosby level, but no, I'm joking.
Yeah,
I think he's better than what he was last year, at least. I think he's a better player than that. Maybe he can be better over there in Dallas, but yeah, Kobe Durant, all right. PJ Locke, cool. Jalen Thompson, cool.
Yeah.
Keeping Brandon Aubrey. It says some shit about Brandon Aubrey. Received a second-round $5 million restricted free agent tender.
Yeah, so teams have the right to, offer him a contract. But I remember them breaking this down. Dallas would have the right to match it, and if they didn't, that team would give the Cowboys a second-round pick.
What?
Yeah. It's second round tender. I've seen them. They've placed that on not the Cowboys in specific, but teams have placed that on regular players. And I remember when they placed it on Aubrey, people were kind of like, "Wow, you don't really see that on a kicker too often." But yeah, you can place that on any player pretty much.
It's just kind of bait out there, I guess.
Yeah, that it pretty much makes the teams not be able to go after him. It's are you really gonna
a team if they really want him? Fuck
yeah,
it, give up a second.
You'd have to pay him and give up a second, so it's kind of like a double whammy. No team is really gonna do that. The next team in this division is the New York Giants. Let me see what I gave the Giants. I had the Giants at a B+.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I had them at a C+.
Okay, I'll let you dive in then, since you're a little bit lower. I think this is one of the better free agents, but yeah, we'll see. What makes you be a little bit lower?
I think they just re-signed a lot of players. Mm-hmm. They didn't really get a lot of new players. I mean, they picked up Likely. I think that's a good player. That's their best signing, obviously. Tremaine Edmonds. It's all right. I've never really been a big Tremaine Edmonds guy. I mean, we've been back and forth on that for a while now. Even before our podcast, I've never really liked Tremaine Edmonds a lot, but I mean, he's sticking around in this league. Greg Newsome, it's all right. He's a fine player. Yeah. Greg Newsome. He got traded. He's the one that got traded 1-for-1 for Tyson Campbell, right, from the Browns
to the Jags last year,
and he wasn't really good. I don't know. I think it was all right. Patrick Ricard. See, these fullback signings, I don't really know. There's not many fullbacks in the league. I don't really know how to gauge them. How are they going to use him?
Yeah.
I find it hard to believe they're going to utilize him as much as probably the Ravens did, but maybe they will. I mean, just turn him into a tight end at this point. I don't know. But he's like a two-way player. He played defense too, right? Defensive tackle.
That's the I think there was a report that he wanted to switch to defensive tackle. I don't know if he really got out there and lined up, but yeah, I think
he's a big fella.
I'm higher on this team's free agency. I really, really love the Isaiah Likely signing. I think Greg Newsome obviously had a rough year getting traded to Jacksonville, but I think he has a chance to really bounce back with the Giants. Jermaine Illuminor has been one of the more underrated tackles in the league, even during his Raider days. I mean, he had a rough start, but he's really been able to be a consistent player in this league. So I really like that re-signing. I don't mind the Tremaine Edmonds. I'm not like a super fan, but I think it's pretty solid. Ardarius Washington was extremely underrated in his Ravens days, so he teams back up with his head coach and John Harbaugh. Same thing with Patrick Ricard. So Darnell Mooney just signed a 1-year deal up to $10 million. I think they made a lot of worthwhile signings, and a team that is in a similar position to the Raiders, where they like to be in a competitive rebuilding spot with Jackson Dart as their quarterback. They're going to bring in a top pick this year, and I like it. I think, like I mentioned, they're in a spot like the Raiders and the Titans would like to be in, which is a competitive rebuilding team. You go out there, you hope to win 5 to 8 games and don't get embarrassed every single game, be in a lot of close games, but ultimately still be picking, in the top 10 or close to it until you feel like you really have your team set. So I was personally a fan of the Giants free agency. So they
I would say I like how they're still holding on to hope for Evan Neal.
Yeah. Did you see his contract was
that went viral?
Yeah,
that
it was
tweet.
0 guaranteed.
1 year, $1 million, 0 guarantees.
Yeah, that's unreal.
That's a real you better prove it type contract.
Dude's playing on straight compensation, bro.
It's just crazy how he hasn't been able to work out in the league.
Yeah,
I don't know.
man.
Keep going. I don't want to go on too long about this, but yeah.
Yeah. The last thing I will say, we talked about it before, man, the fact that they got Neal and Thibodeau in the same draft, and it looked like that's just supposed to be a runaway. Like, that's supposed to build your foundation of your team. And, Thibodeau's been a fine player in his career, but, man, has Evan Neal not. I mean, he's not a starter, and I don't even know if he should be in the league, but he's back. Next team in this division, Philadelphia Eagles. I gave the Eagles a C.
Wow. I'm opposite. I gave them a B.
Okay, a little bit higher. I guess I'll start then on my side. I think the whole A.J. Brown debacle kind of has me up in the air with this team. Is he getting traded? Is he staying? Like, what's his value? And it's just kind of got me in a stale spot with this team. I don't like, I mean, Arnold Ebiketie, like, it's like, I'm not sitting here blown away from it. Tariq Woolen was another one of these DBs that I'm talking about where just didn't really have a market, signs a 1-year deal, which could be a big thing, but I'm not going to sit here and hype up a guy like Tariq Woolen that has a lot of lows, and specifically in these past couple years. Jonathan Jones was certainly a player a few years ago and not as much anymore. They re-signed Jordan Davis to a massive 3-year, $78 million contract extension.
Love that.
I think I'm a fan of it, but it's like, what does that mean for a couple other players on this team, when it's up for their extensions? That's something that I look at when I see something like Jordan Davis get paid that amount of money, $65 million guaranteed. So I think the Eagles had a really disappointing year last year, and in my opinion, I think it's bled into the offseason. I think it was pretty disappointing for me as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it as much as you do. I don't hate the Tariq Woolen signing. Like you said, like, he definitely had moments last year where, like, a lot of head-scratching moments, but I think he's going to a really good situation, which, I mean, he left a really good situation where he made a lot of head-scratching things, but I think the Eagles' defense is really good, really young. I think Arnold Ebiketie, I think he's still a good player. He never really broke out with the Falcons like he kind of was hyped up to be, but I think he's a really really good toolsy guy. Maybe he could learn something over there. Jordan Davis, I love. I've loved him ever since coming out of college. I love, I don't know, kind of have a sweet spot for nose tackles. But, yeah, Jordan Davis, that's my guy. Love the extension. Love that he got paid. I don't care that if it might be an overpay, whatever. Might be the highest paid nose tackle in the league right now. I don't know, but I think he's worth it. I think he's a great player. He had a really good season last year too. Yeah, I think just those three really. I think I like those more than I don't like them. So I think I gave him a B.
No, can't argue with that. The final team in this division is the Washington Commanders. And I was pretty high on the Commanders. I believe you just gave the Eagles a B+. I gave the Commanders a B+.
The Eagles a B.
Or B, but yeah, I give the Commanders a B+. I was a huge
Safe to
fan.
say I was higher than you.
You landed in the A for this team?
I gave them an A. I really liked what they did.
Okay. Is this I guess you could, but is this your highest of the
Tied
episode?
For the highest.
Tied. Okay, so I'll let you dive in then. Highest graded team for you.
Yeah, I mean, they had a lot of money to spend, and to that they did. I mean, they signed a lot of players. They signed some running backs. They signed some receivers. They signed some offensive linemen. They signed some edges. They signed some DBs. I mean, you go all over the place. And, not just, any players. These are really, starting caliber players. Laramie Tunsil, re-signing Laramie Tunsil, re-signing or extending Nick Algiretti, phenomenal for their offensive line. And then, the running backs, I said Jerome Ford, Rashad White, very solid, backup running backs, whatnot, depth piece running backs. Adafe Owe gave him a massive contract. I think he's a very solid player. Kayvon Chason, who had an amazing year last year with the Patriots. Love that. Signed him to a 1 year. Charles Omenihu's solid too. More depth at the defensive line. Leo Chenal, he was pretty great for the Chiefs. He was one of those high RAS score players. Athletic freak, amazing run defender. Nick Cross, I like that too. Amik Robertson, I think he was kind of burnt toast last year with the Lions, but hey, you've had, you've seen better years, I guess. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. I really like what they did. They had a lot of money. They went out there and spent it, getting Jaden Daniels back healthy for to start the season. Yeah, I like what they did, and potentially what they will. Another thing that they will be doing once the Ayuk thing is settled. He is more than likely going to go over there. So, that,
so it's
kind of factored that in a little bit. They didn't do that yet, but I think that's almost set in stone. That will definitely happen. So, yeah. I like their offseason a lot.
That's a fair point. Yeah, we were both collectively pretty high. I had him at a B+ as well. Yeah, kind of everything you said. I love the Leo Chenal pickup. An absolute steal on their 3-year, $24.7 million deal. Adafe Owe, it's a lot of money, but he was coming off a pretty good year last year. Is he going to be able to replicate that? Let's hope so. Kayvon Chason, I've always said, is, I think, a really valuable rotational pass rusher in this league. I don't think he's a starter, but as a rotational guy, I think he provides a lot of value, and they made some valuable additions across the offensive line, and they brought back some receivers that they really liked in that room. Even Mariota on a 1-year deal re-signed, so I think that helps them out a ton as well.
Treylon Burks too.
Yeah,
glad to see he's out there still kicking in the league.
Yeah, somehow, even though he had that catch last year, one of the better catches that you'll see. So the Commanders end up pretty high on both of our lists for our grades. The next NFC division we will get to is the NFC North, starting out with the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears. What did I have them at? I want to say I had them fairly high. I had them at a C+.
Yeah, I did too.
Okay.
C+.
Both similar. I mean, they lost a lot. They brought back. There are some play. The Garrett Bradbury trade, I'm not a huge fan of. I'm not going to lie to you. Jedrick Wills, I'm not a huge fan of. Like, there's a lot that I'm not a fan of, but there are also some that I really, really like. I really like the Devin Bush pickup. Is he going to be able to replicate the same season he had last year in Cleveland? Maybe, maybe not. I thought he played really well in that system. I'm hoping he can be able to replicate some of that. And I also really like the Kobe Bryant deal. I think those two are the biggest ones that I really like from this team. This was a team that, came into free agency with a solid amount of money. And did they blow me away with anything? No, but I think they made some solid pickups. They did lose certainly some players on that defense that, helped them out last year. And obviously we talked about it to start this episode or to start these grades. They received a second-round pick for DJ Moore, which I think is pretty huge. Something that led me very close to giving this team a B, but also when I look at the acquisitions they made, I'm not entirely in love with everything that I'm seeing here, so it led me to a C+, but very close to being on that B- range.
Yeah. I mean, not a whole lot to talk about here, not a lot of amazing pickups.
Yeah.
I think the Bradbury trade might have been a little desperation type trade. I don't know. I don't know if they were fully expecting Drew Dolman to retire like that. Age of like 27 or 28, but
Right.
Maybe they Garrett Bradbury does stuff that they like. Maybe they just wanted somebody who started previously to be their starting center.
They kind of just needed a body
guy up there. Yeah.
Yeah. That's fair. I mean, we could almost honestly the rest of this division, me personally, not a huge fan of. We can almost fly through it if you don't have a ton. The Detroit Lions are the next team. I graded the Lions out at a C flat.
Yeah, C. Same here.
Yeah, I mean, traded for Juice Scruggs. I mean, they certainly had to improve their offensive line. You bring in Isaiah Pacheco. I've seen people talking about, and it went from Sonic and Knuckles to Sonic and Moose Knuckles. That's one of the most insane jokes I've seen on the internet this week.
Sonic and dog shit.
Yeah, it's Lions fans, buckle up for the Pacheco show. It's just an offseason I didn't love. Pretty average. I mean, they weren't expected to come out here and do a whole ton, and that's essentially what they did. So a C grade across the board. The next team, the Packers, I gave a C- to.
So gave a C-.
Yeah, I mean, we're clicking. Like I said, I didn't love this division.
We almost flushed this division.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you're going to give the Vikings a high grade, which I did.
We had the same Bears, Lions, and Packers?
Yeah.
All right, so then Vikings, let's see. Should we 3-2-1 it?
Sure.
All right, Vikings.
If we land on this, you owe me Canes. 3, 2, 1.
B+.
B+. Oh,
Let's
my God, you owe me Canes. Let's go.
No, I do not owe you Canes, but
take a Caniac combo, no slaw, extra toast.
Oh, my God. We agree on the entire division. Let me read through it. Packers at a B+. Not Packers, geez. Vikings at a B+. Vikings. Can I fucking talk? Vikings at a B+. Packers at a C-, Lions at a C+, and Bears was a B-.
No.
Can I talk?
What are you doing?
I don't know what I'm doing right now.
Bears C+, Lions C, Packers C-, Vikings B+.
Bro, my notes are just all out of order. I'm sorry. I'm a wreck right now. I just ruined that amazing clip. But we'll go ahead and get into the Vikings because we both had them fairly high. I think we are both going to be pretty high on this considering the Kyler Murray acquisition. This was a team that was above 500 last year, and they're bringing in what you'd hope to be is a top half starting quarterback in this league when they had to deal with 9 out there. I also saw one of the jokes of the weekend or of the past week where it said they went from 9 to 5'9". Kyler Murray's a little bit better than that, a little bit taller than that, I should say. I think I'd give him 5'10", 5'11", but you get the gist. I can't emphasize enough how huge it is for a team like this to get a quality starting quarterback and not have to deal with literal, similar to what the Lions are going to be dealing with in their backfield, literal dog shit at quarterback. The Vikings are set up. I'm not one that people are talking about, could they be sneaky contenders? Could they be this and that? I think this is certainly a playoff team. I think it's potentially a team that can win a playoff game, but I don't think I can go as far as saying a legit contender in the NFC. Just me personally. There's just a couple other teams that I still like over them, but it's certainly, I guess you could say, it puts them in the race. I think they're probably a top 5 team in the NFC, but I don't think I can get to that real Super Bowl contender mark for me personally. But yeah. Anything else you'd like to add on to that, or really just the Kyler Murray?
I don't got much to add. Yeah, just Kyler Murray.
Yeah. I hate that I messed that up, but yeah, full agreement on a division. The next division we'll get to features your favorite team, the NFC South. We'll go ahead and have you start with your grade then. What did you grade out your Falcons?
C-.
Yeah, I gave them a C as well. I'll let you rant. It's your boys, so you can take the floor.
I mean, we didn't do a whole lot. We didn't have a lot of money to do a whole lot. I think we addressed the weapons category, I guess you can say. Jahan Dotson, 2 year, $15 million. I don't hate it. I think he's an all right player. I think he's probably not a wide receiver 2, but he will be a wide receiver 2 in this offense. But, I mean, there's a lot of weapons. I don't think a wide receiver 2 is going to be that important. I think Bijan can kind of take on that role.
Yeah.
Of being the second receiving threat, even Kyle Pitts, franchise tag Kyle Pitts. It's kind of that's what I predicted in our whatever episode. I thought we were going to do that, which is what we did. Brought back Zacchaeus, brought back Hooper. Cool. Azeez Ojulari, solid player, 1 year deal. Signed some more defensive pieces, and yeah.
Let's address the obvious. Do you like the Tua thing at all? Are you a huge hater of it? Is there a chance that you think he's going to?
We signed Tua? I don't. It's not. Honestly, I don't hate it as much as like it sounds. I mean, he's literally signed to 1 year vet minimum. Like, what is that? $1 million? Like, I don't think it's as bad as the Kirk signing, I guess you could say.
Oh yeah,
that we did 100%. A couple years ago.
Yeah.
Even though Tua is like undoubtedly probably a worse player, I know they came out and said that Ian Cunningham said that him and Penix are going to be fighting for that starting spot. I don't know if I believe that. I think Penix, if he's ready, he probably will be the starter, considering – I don't know. I mean, I guess it is a new offense. Maybe they really are fighting for a starting spot. I'd be surprised if Tua's the starter coming into week 1 if Penix is healthy and ready to go. If he's not, I mean, I guess Tua's our guy going out there. I think there's probably some better options. But, we needed a backup, I guess. And that's who we landed on. That's who Matt Ryan and the guys liked. And, nothing I could do about that.
Yeah.
We signed him to $1 billion, so that's why I don't hate it. It's whatever. He's on the team. He's not really a good look, good culture guy. Everybody hates him, but, it's whatever.
Yeah, I don't got a lot of ton to add on that, so we both kind of agreed on a low grade. The next
I would say Laquelle London. I like Laquelle London. He's a really good player. I'm glad we were able to re-sign him. I forgot to talk about that. He's a very solid player. Look out for him next year, potential All-Pro candidate.
Right.
Anyways, Nick Folk, though. Nick Folk, that's a good pickup, too, considering we had a lot bad kicker problems last year.
Yeah.
You know what? We get a B- now.
Yeah. You got to find the good and the bad. The next team in this division where we'll definitely flip the script here after a pretty low grade. I had the Panthers at A-.
I had them at A.
Yeah, this is one of the winners of this offseason. They paid a lot for some of these players, including Jalen Phillips on a 4-year deal worth $120 million and Devin Lloyd on a 3-year deal worth $45 million. I mean, complete opposites. You signed Jalen Phillips to a massive deal and Devin Lloyd on an absolute steal. This is a team that improved heavily on the defensive side of the ball with those two players. They also make some plays on the offensive line. They also bring in a couple weapons that I don't know how much players they're going to be, but it's solid depth pickups with David Moore and John Mechie. And this is a team that, people are going to look at the overpay for Jalen Phillips, and who knows if he has a same or similar year to last year, but maybe with a little bit more production, it's certainly going to be worth that contract. But, excuse me, a team that has only has one season with double-digit wins over the past 11 years, they have improved a lot. I mean, there's a team that went, I think, 9-8 last year, if I'm not mistaken, with the pickups that they made and taking into account that the draft is upcoming. This is a team that could easily be a game or two better. And considering that they are in one of the, weaker divisions in football, I really like the Panthers going into next season. So to kill it with an offseason like this, to really start that, I'm a huge fan of that. The interesting thing with this team is I really wonder what a Bryce Young extension looks like, because obviously it's a guy that's really just been up and down throughout his career. You look at the benching throughout that he's dealt with, in year 1, year 2, and then, year 3, he really bounces back and has a solid year. The numbers aren't eye-popping, but you can obviously see from the film and the tape that he was overall a better player. This was easily, without a doubt, his best year. And I think going into this next year, year 4, it's really going to show what an extension can look like for him. Is he going to really, pop out for that real explosive Pro Bowl type year, or is he just kind of going to keep being on the fence where one game he looks like the best player in the world and the next game he looks like the worst? I really don't know. I think that's a big thing that's going to go into the Panthers' future, obviously. So we'll see what that looks like. But for as far as just this offseason, I gave an A-.
Yeah, I gave him an A. I think Devin covered most of the things with them. Their two big signings is what really did it. Snag Devin Lloyd. I didn't think that would happen. I thought for sure the Jags were going to be re-signing him coming off the year he just had. Jalen Phillips, we knew he was probably going to be up for grabs. They were able to land him. Monster pickup. And, yeah, I mean, they just added some depth to the wide receiver room, which was kind of bleak outside of their number one. Their offensive line, they added some depth, I guess. Yeah, I think they just really hit it out the park with their two big ones. For me, they get an A because I like those. And their defense was – and they were a team that snuck into the playoffs last year. And their defense was really feisty. And they added two players that are going to make that defense even more feisty.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be a tough team to beat this year.
Mm-hmm. The second to last team that we will be getting into, or second to last team in this division, I should say, the New Orleans Saints. I have them at a B.
I have them at a C+.
Yeah, similar, a little bit lower. I think I'm a little bit higher on them. I like the offensive line additions that they made with David Edwards. I like Travis. How do you say his last name, Jaden?
Fuck. I just saw that video. I saw the video. I forgot.
We have a second A-Chain in the league. Travis A-Chain to the New Orleans Saints, which I really, really like. And your boy, Caden Ellis, on a 3-year, $33 million deal, which I am also a really, really big fan of. So I think the Saints are really starting to build an identity over there. You're not a fan of it because he left your team?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can agree with that part, but yeah, Ellis is an amazing player, and I think the Saints have really starting to build a foundation with this offseason, and I'm a fan of it. So I was a little bit higher at a B. Jaden is just a tick lower at a C plus, but and overall I think solid offseason for the Saints. And the last team that we will jump into in this division is the Tampa Bay Bucks. And honestly, I don't even know how much time I want to spend on them. I gave them a C minus.
Gave them a C.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Fuck the Bucks.
not a lot to
NFC
say.
West. Arizona Cardinals. I don't have a lot to say about them.
Yeah, I mean,
signed Cade Otton.
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
I like Cade Otton. I think he's a solid tight end, really good tight end. Other than that,
yeah, outside of that, a team that had a little bit of money to spend, I don't think they did a lot, and especially considering how much of a fall off they had, they didn't really improve a ton. If anything, they got worse. So. Yeah, a C minus C for the both of us. And our final division that we will be rating is the NFC West. The Cardinals are a team that I had a really difficult time grading. So I will have you start out with your grade and see if we're potentially on a similar path or similar frame.
Cardinals, I gave a F because they signed Elijah Wilkinson, and he's been trashing my team, so they go fuck themselves. I gave them a C+.
Okay, yeah, we end up at the same grade. I also have the Cardinals at a C+. I don't really like they made like some okay signings. Isaac Seumalo, I think is a player in this league. Kendrick Bourne is a solid player. They got your boy Tyler Algier, which is a solid backup. He potentially is going to be their starter. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't look at him as a starter in this league, but I don't know. I wouldn't say their exact goal, but the Cardinals would like to be bad. They'd like to be picking at the top of the draft last year, and with the free agency and offseason like they're having, they are going to. They could potentially have Arch Manning starting for them next season. So if that happens, this offseason can go up really high, to an A, B+, depending on what type of player he turns into. But yeah, we won't spend too much time on the Cardinals, a confusing team to say the least. The next team is the Los Angeles Rams, and I have the Rams at a B+.
A-.
Yeah, so very, very similar on there. This is the team that needed to address the cornerback position bad, and they did that.
One game away from the Super Bowl, and they addressed the need that they needed to.
Yep, bringing in.
That's why they got A- for me.
Bringing in the Chiefs duo of Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson. Do you think they still take a corner at 13?
Yeah, I think
you think
could.
So? I really think they do as well. I really think they do. It's going to be interesting to see where they go because I think they could go a lot of different ways. I even see some people mocking a receiver to them, which I think is incredibly interesting.
I feel like I see that most commonly mocked these days.
Yeah. So
like
the Rams,
Lemon.
right? The The Rams are just in such a great spot, man. They are easily going to be my favorite going into next season. I'm stoked to watch the Rams as I have been really over the past couple of years since they got Stafford in the door and Puka, and they just continue to not care about the picks. I mean, they lucked out having an extra one this year, but it would have been, another year of the Rams not picking in the first round. So B plus for me, A minus for Jaden. We're both pretty high on the Rams off season and especially going into next year. Second to last team of this video will be the 49ers. I have the Niners at a B minus. I was actually kind of higher on them. I'm not sure where you're going to be at with them.
I also gave them a B minus.
Okay. I thought potentially you could be a little bit lower.
But we're getting close to being another sweep of a division.
Yeah.
Wait, no, you said B plus for the Rams.
Never mind. It was one off. Honestly, I wonder where we're going to be at for the final team, the Seahawks.
Still on the Canes, though.
The Evans signing, I don't love it as much as others. It's kind of whatever for me. I think the Oso Odigizua trade is huge. And the Dre Greenlaw signing, I also really like. Nate Hobbs was certainly a player for the Raiders, definitely not for the Packers, and I'm not sure if he's going to be one for the Niners, so that one doesn't do much for me. But, yeah, I think the trade that they made and some overall one-year deals that they brought in as depthy pickups, I'm a pretty big fan of. So the Niners, considering what they could do this offseason, I landed them at a B minus.
Okay.
And yeah, I guess we'll jump into the final team of this video, the Seattle Seahawks. I guess we'll count it down to see if we match. I don't know if we will, but we'll see. 3, 2, 1, C.
C minus.
Close. One half a grade off for two teams. I like the re-signings that they made with Rashid Shaheed and Josh Jobe, but outside of that, not a lot. They lost a lot on defense, so I don't really like that. That's a pretty common thing with teams that win the Super Bowl. Their guys are going to go out there and get a lot of money, and it just doesn't make the most sense to re-sign those guys to those type of contracts. So that's pretty much ultimately what happened to the Seahawks. At least they got their Super Bowl. I can't confidently say that this team will be back next year, but who knows? They still got a genius at head coach in Mike McDonald, so only time will tell. But as far as specifically this offseason, I'm not the biggest fan, and neither is Jaden, as we both grade them out as a C and a C minus. And that is every single team, all 32 graded off season. This is by far the longest episode we've ever had. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, make sure to subscribe, make sure to rate us 5 stars. We're going to be back next week, I believe, ranking our top 10 cornerbacks. We'll be back with, a regularly scheduled program of, having some other type of segments throughout the videos, doing a little more, rambling and talking and whatnot. But specifically this video, we just had to get through these grades. If we would have went on tangents, it would have been a 2.5 hour pod, and that's not incredibly realistic. But yeah, we will see you guys next time. We're out. Peace.